Okay, I don't think he's going to make it for the introduction, so I'm just going to start. Yeah, so hi, my name's Deneka. I am working here as a talent mobility consultant here at Terra Talent, and I'm going to take over this, doing this webinar today, focusing on, studying in Germany. So, these are going to be the topics we'll cover today. So just a little bit about us and who we are, and and then we're just going to get right into it. So talking about international students in Germany, the various types of higher education in Germany, finding a degree program, admission requirements, what's needed for the different degree programs, the DAAD, the Deutsche Akademische Austauschdienst, the application procedure, and then of course the is everyone having that issue? My microphone does seem to be on. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, Deneka, I can hear you. I think
Okay.
the person should check their microphone or their settings. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then to finish off, we're going to talk about, of course, the visa, the permit, and then the requirements for that. So, just a bit about us, Terra Talent. So we're a young consultancy involved in the areas of international talent acquisition, overseas assignments and exchanges between companies in Germany and emerging markets. So we basically focus primarily on creating bridges between German companies and international talent pools. So to talk a little bit about our network, so we have quite a wide network with corporate partners and educational partners. So our corporate partners are mostly based here in Germany. So we have like the Africa Berlin Tech Network, for example, which is a government initiative. So linking people from the African diaspora into like tech jobs here in Berlin. And we have the educational partners. So these are different schools that we are working together with all across Africa in different topics like AI and tech and those different kinds of things. But just to get started with the actual webinar. So here I've just kind of provided a graph that kind of shows that the increase in international students in Germany. So Germany does kind of continue to be one of the world's most attractive destinations for international students, especially as like a non-English speaking country. So there you can see in the winter semester for 2024-2025, there are 492,087 foreign students. So this is students without a German citizenship. And these were all studying at German or are studying now at German higher education institutions. The proportion, of course, has risen quite significantly. So it's now, I think the proportion is around 17% of students are have like an international background. And it is also here, as you can see, they are split into two different groups. So you have the Bildungsausländer and the Bildungsinländer. So these are the international students and the resident international students. So students who maybe completed this Abitur here or already got a degree here in Germany, but they aren't citizens. So for the international students for this year, it's around 402,000, which is a pretty large amount. And this is covering obviously international students and doctoral candidates. Okay, I'm glad that you can hear me again. yeah, so as you can see, there's quite a steady increase, and these numbers really kind of confirm Germany's position. Like I said, for a non-English speaking country, I mean, of course, like the Germans do speak English and these different kinds of things, but it's not like the UK or US, Canada, which are these typical destinations for international students. So Germany's kind of creeping up there. There's also another important point is that data shows that international student dropout rates are much lower than previously assumed, and are actually pretty relative to the German dropout rates. So that also kind of shows that not only are students wanting to come here and coming here and enrolling, but they're enrolling and integrating and succeeding in their degrees, which is also very promising. And it's obviously very, important for the Germany, like the skilled labor shortage, with obviously the backdrop of the skilled labor shortage. So international graduates are quite an important part of the workforce, because when people graduate, they are staying here too. So in 2019, for example, I think it was like 20% of all people with a residence permit were gainfully employed or looking for a job here in Germany. But now that's around 30%, which is almost a third for this year 2024 graduates. So and yeah, it's pretty interesting, and yeah, a lot of students do stay. So I think in here I have 2010, about half of students were still living here after 5 years. But then in 2015, that increased to 63%. So again, it shows that, many people are coming. There are 492,000, 402,000 for this year. They're coming, they're studying, they're successfully graduating and staying for quite a long time afterwards. So yeah, that's a little bit of background numbers. But yeah, so we can have a look now at who is actually coming to Germany. So the largest group of international students is India, and they're coming from India. This is with around 59,000 students, which is a 20% increase from last year. And China is in second place with 38,600. But in terms of broader regions, so the Asia Pacific region makes up a third of all international students, North Africa and the Middle East at 19% each, and Western Europe accounts for 15%. So again, like international students, are important for the workforce, and they also seem to be drawn to particular courses which are which you would lead you to, the shortage occupations here in Germany. So for example, engineering, many international students are coming here to study engineering, which is, I think 43% of international students are studying in engineering courses. And this is followed by economics, law, and social sciences at 25%. And yeah, most importantly, though, students are coming here to study mostly their masters and their PhDs. So it is possible to come here as a student and as an international student and do your bachelor, but most people do come to do their masters or their PhD. So I think it says here about a quarter of students studying their masters now in Germany are international students, and 28% of those are for the PhD candidates too. So again, showing that Germany is becoming increasingly appealing for international students. So where obviously the UK, the US, Canada, these kinds of countries have always been, pretty historically attractive for international students. Germany's slowly coming up there. So these numbers are these are just like what students are studying overall in Germany, so this includes German students as well. But this kind of also reflects that the international students too. So this, yeah, it kind of mirrors the labor market needs, really. So of course, a business administration at the top, but then we have, you know, all the different engineering subjects, which are the strongest if you put them all together. And then, yeah, economics, law, social sciences, which make up a substantial share of enrollments too. So now we're going to go, we're going to have a look at the different types of higher education institutions that Germany offers. So the first one here is the kind of obvious one, so the traditional university. And these kind of offer the broadest range of academic subjects from humanities to natural sciences. So these institutions are research oriented and academic. So if you're interested in theory, academic research, these kinds of subjects, then the university is, of course, the best match. Many universities now are offering English taught programs, master's programs. I think I read somewhere every single university now in Germany has at least one English taught program. So I think they kind of realize that obviously students are coming here, they're working, they're graduating, and they're staying here and are contributing to the economy and the labor market. And one major reason for that is the English taught programs. So I think a lot of universities now are trying to push these a bit more for the international students. But yeah, it is the English taught programs are typically in subjects like engineering, computer science, and social sciences. So yeah, so this is there on the slide. It says teaching style, more independent learning with large lectures. So you're mostly just kind of, you are given some kind of like material, but you're doing obviously your own research. It's very independent. And the requirements for internationals is a university entrance qualification. So this is for if you're coming here to do your bachelor, you have to have a recognized like high school diploma. For a master's, you have to have a recognized bachelor. Of course, your proof of language. So depending on the course you want to study, if this is in English or German, there's going to be a slide later on talking about the language requirements in more detail. But yeah, you have to have your proof of language. And the application is often via UniAssist, which is an online application site. And there you can, I mean, it's also useful for searching for degree courses too. But there, if you, again, in a slide later on, there's going to be a slide talking about the different sites where you can find the courses. But once you have found a course that you want to apply for, then you can go on to UniAssist and you basically just type in the institution and the course in there. And then it also lets you know, say, if you've missed the application deadline or if the application window isn't open yet, it tells you that, yeah, so when is best, when to apply. And then also breaks it down pretty simply for you for the, for the application. So it's pretty nice to use. And on there as well, because for the application to apply for university, there's often a cost. I can't remember the numbers now exactly. I think it's 75 euros for the first one. And then after that, it's 30 euros or something like that. I'll have to check the numbers again. But also on UniAssist, you can basically, you have like a wallet in there and there you can put in your money and then it just kind of can sit there until you've made like a certain decision on which courses you want to apply for. Because I think that's also kind of helpful because if you put the money in there and then you just hastily apply for a course and then you decide, oh, actually, I prefer this one. So it just gives you kind of some time to just prepare yourself and save the courses, compare them, and yeah, it's a pretty useful site. But of course, lots of universities too, depending on the course, and also for the courses, they're regulated for the regulated professions, which we'll go on about soon too. These are often they often require you to apply directly to the university itself. And then, but this is different for each university. So that would require, looking at the university website itself and working that out. But yeah, so that's the universities. So now this is the Universities of Applied Sciences, and these focus much more on practical, hands-on learning and emphasize real world application. There's often strong links to industry, and the programs at these universities often include, again, engineering, but this is more practical. Engineering, IT, business, social work, and design. And programs at these kinds of universities often require have like a obligatory internship or practical semester. So I think in the second year, in between the second and third year, you have to have this 6-10 week semester where it's like practical. Depending on the course, it can be longer than that. But yes, requirements, again, similar to universities, but sometimes you need the additional proof of practical experience as well, depending on the course. But again, once you go on the university website, there's usually a pretty clear list for the requirements that they expect, and that's also on Uni Assist as well. We also have the art, music, and film colleges. So these are specialized colleges dedicated to the arts. And these institutions are highly selective, and the admission is it's a talent-based admission. So you would normally need a portfolio or to do an audition or to complete an entrance exam. Or performance tests, interviews, all of these different kinds of things. So they're a bit more selective, but this is also a different kind of university here in Germany. And now also the non-university pathways. So this is the Ausbildung, which is vocational training, and this is Germany's pretty well known for its dual vocational training system. It's kind of unique to Germany, I would say. But it's a great option for students who want to say a more practical, career-oriented path instead of a purely academic degree. So the Ausbildung combines classroom learning with paid on-the-job training in a company. And this means students can gain real work experience and earn a salary during their training, albeit the salary isn't so high. So in your first year, it's 800 per month, and then I think that's even increased now, 800 per month, and then for the second, it's around 950, and then for the third, 1,200. But I need to check those numbers again. But this is also it's a good option for those who want this more practical training. There are in Germany around 300 recognized Ausbildung professions, from IT and healthcare to, again, engineering, as well as media and hospitality. And for many roles in Germany, an Ausbildung is the standard route into the profession. So, for example, for hospitality, so if you want to work in a hotel or something, many hotel jobs require an Ausbildung, for example. So there's because it provides you this specialized training. But yeah, so if you want a more immediate job-focused qualification, the Ausbildung then would be the way to go. The requirements here, it usually requires B1, B2 German, and you can earn money while studying and no bot account is necessary, but this is only if the training salary is sufficient. So in your first year, you would need to, I think you need to have 11,904 for the year. So you would need to kind of bump up your salary each month with the bot account if it doesn't reach the minimum requirement. So now, yeah, foundation programs and preparatory steps. So this is for international students whose school qualifications don't directly qualify them for a German university. So in this case, you can then take a Studienkolleg, and this is just essentially a foundation program. And it prepares students academically and linguistically for their chosen field. And then it ends with the exam at the end, so the Feststellungsprüfung. And yeah, this basically just is an exam that qualifies you to apply for the bachelor's program. There are also language preparation options. So these include intensive German courses at universities or private institutes. And this is for students who need to meet language requirements. So for example, say if you already have a B1 in German, but your course requires you to get a B2, then you could usually come a bit earlier. This will be discussed in the visa section later, but you can come a bit earlier to pursue these preparation courses, and you can then study German intensively for the 3 months before you actually start your degree. And the same for B2, and if you need a C1, and yeah, etc. So yeah, for the master's level applicants, preparatory steps might include bridging courses or additional modules, depending on the program. So for some master's degrees, some universities could search in your application that you've covered a certain topic or a certain module. And if that isn't the case, then this can also be kind of done in this bridging course. But again, depends on the program. But all in all, these are, yeah, essentially preparatory pathways to ensure that students are fully ready to succeed once they start their degree. And I'll talk again on where you can find these later on. So admission requirements. So for the bachelor's and the master's, it's kind of different, but you obviously have your basic things, basic admission requirements that you need for everything, but there is some slight difference. So for the bachelor's programs, the main requirement is having a school leaving certificate that is equivalent to the German Abitur. So the German Abitur is what's completed by German students when they are 18. And then this is obviously what qualifies you to get into university. So you would need the equivalent of this to apply for a bachelor's here in Germany. Depending on the country, it may not be directly recognized. So then this is where students would then need to complete a Studienkolleg to just do that foundation course, which then makes you qualified to begin. Your language requirements, again, depend on the program. So if it's in German, then you don't need English. If it's in English, you don't need German. Some courses you need both. For the say the Fachhochschulen, the applied sciences colleges, universities, for these you would need maybe some German, because sometimes for the internship semester, sometimes this semester can only be completed in German. But it also, if you have the German, it gives you more options then for your semester, for your internship semester. So you're not limited to then just English ones. Yes, and for the arts, So for the music, film, arts colleges, you of course need a portfolio and to successfully complete an audition or an entrance exam. So now on the masters, again, instead of the university entrance qualification, which is recognized, you need a recognized bachelor's degree. So this can be found on Anabin. I think I included the link. Yes, there. It's under the bachelor one, but this is also useful for the masters. And on here, this is just a huge online database where you can look up your degree course. So you can look up what you studied, where you studied it, and you can then see if it's recognized or not here in Germany. So if it has already been, if someone has already requested like a recognition for this particular institution, for this particular course before, then it will be on there. So pretty much all institutions' courses should be on there, but if it isn't, then you can contact them yourself and then put a request in saying that you need to see if this institution, if this course is recognized. But that would happen pretty rarely. But if you're interested to see if your bachelor, if you already have a bachelor, if you're interested to see if your institution is recognized, it would then come up with a H plus. And then this means that all courses at this particular institution are recognized. If the institution comes up with a H plus minus, then this means that some courses are recognized and some aren't. And then H minus means that that it isn't recognized at all. So that's the Anabin database. And then I'll go a little bit more into that soon, because for the recognition as well, the recognition for regulated courses is different. So the language requirements are the same, so German, English. And for some programs, especially in engineering, economics, social sciences, you may need a motivation letter or a CV. Sometimes for some courses, you need to present some kind of work experience and or recommendation letters. So that's just kind of the broad overview of admission requirements. Of course, when you're finding your course, they would have like their own specific things as well, their own specific admission requirements. But yes, so this is about the regulated professions. And this is kind of an add-on to the universities that we covered a few slides ago. So some programs require that you do a state exam, and this is for the state regulated professions. So this covers subjects like medicine, law, teaching, pharmacy, and other health professions. There as well, dentistry and veterinary medicine. And these programs are designed to essentially disqualify students for these very specific jobs. And it is legally equivalent to a master's degree, but the exam kind of acts as like a government-issued license to practice in these fields. They're very competitive programs to get into and require pretty good grades. So in your high school diploma or your bachelor, as well as this, you may need some like experience. Like I said, they're kind of competitive. So this is the topic of recognition. So the recognition process for these kinds of courses is different. So Anabin will suffice here. You would need to get an official statement of comparability from the ZAB. So in English, the Central Office for Foreign Education. So this is, I think it's about 150 euros. So yeah, it's very pricey, the process, but for these kinds of particular courses, you do need this this particular statement of comparability. So Annabin won't suffice for these. At the bottom, tuition fees. At the public universities, there are no tuition fees, but your semester costs. So depending on where you are, this excludes Baden-Württemberg, by the way, so the federal state in the southwest. Tuition isn't free in this particular state, depends on the institution. But your semester costs basically cover administrative costs and your public transport and all of that kind of stuff. It's usually around 300 euros per semester. It could be lower, could be higher, but I'd say that that's kind of the average. And some scholarships available. So this is like, from the DAAD, which I'll talk about later, and the Deutschlandstipendium. So so there's some funding options if that's interesting to you. So the language requirements. So this is basically just a list of the different qualifications that are recognized. So for the German taught programs, which usually require a B2 or a C1, you can have the test DAF, DSH. You can have a small or a big German Sprachdiplom, language diploma from the Goethe Institute. There's also the one from the Culture Minister Conference. So there are lots of different options. There are lots of different options for the German language certificate. That should also say TELC. And then for the English one, so for the English taught programs, like I said, they're quite common in master's courses, so very common in STEM, business, social sciences. For the bachelor's, it's pretty limited. There are some, but not as common for the masters. Not as common as the masters, sorry. But for the English taught programs, for the qualification, for the certificate, this is the IELTS, which I'm sure many of you have probably heard of. This is the most common one. And a TOEFL. There are the minimum score requirements. There's also the Cambridge C1 Advanced, the PTE Academic, and a minimum of C6 for W8 SSCE holders. So lots of different options to kind of prove your language proficiency. They did change it recently, I think just a couple of years ago. So even if you studied a bachelor, say if you're applying for a master's and you studied your bachelor in the English language, for some places across the world, some countries across the world, they did change it that even having this isn't sufficient. You have to have this particular, one of these particular language qualifications. So this has like cropped up a couple of times where people have said like, well, I studied my bachelor in English, but unfortunately sometimes it's not enough. So this was changed a couple of years ago. So also just be aware of that, that you also will need one of these two. So just more on the language and short courses. So these are for the preparatory courses. So say if you're German, you have a B2, but you need a C1. Here on the DAAD website, here you can find the different language and short courses to prepare you then for your degree. So prepare you linguistically for your degree. But to find actual degree programs, there are quite a few sites, but this is I would say the main three, the ones that I would recommend. So then again, it's the DAAD, it's called My Guide, the Higher Education Compass, or My German University, and they all basically follow the same kind of format. So you just put in the kind of field you're interested in. If you want to study your bachelor or your master's or whatever it may be, and where, so in which federal state you want to study. So yes, and then these kind of are given in options. I don't know, I mean, it's very small for me there. I don't know how well you can see it. But there are, these drop-down boxes that kind of just ask you these questions, and then it just filters everything out and then just shows you the different courses for the fields that you are interested in. So say if you're interested in the humanities, you would then just put humanities, and then if you want to study humanities in Berlin, then you can put this in, and it filters all of the courses for you. So they're pretty useful. So so these are kind of what you would use before, like I mentioned, for Uni Assist. These I would use these to get like a basically just a good overview of the different courses available. And these also, you can also limit, you can also filter them for tuition fees. So if you want to go to a private university instead of a state university, and vice versa, you can also filter this too. So you can also have a look, you can also put tuition fees 0, and then it will filter out all of the private institutions which have the quite high tuition fees. But if you're open to paying for that, then you can filter and then go just for the private institutions. So like I said, the DAAD has been mentioned a few times. So the Deutsche Akademische Austauschdienst. In English, the German Academic Exchange Service. So this is just kind of just a quick slide just to explain what it is. And it is a organization which is actually one of the world's largest funding organizations for international academic exchange. And it's a service that essentially supports students and researchers, higher education institutions, by providing scholarships, funding, and information about studying in Germany. They also support a myriad of special pretty great institution, organization. Again, for the scholarships, this could be something that is interesting for all of you. I realized just before that I did want to include a slide just on scholarships, but I'd forgotten. But if you go onto the DAAD website, on there you can have a look for the DAAD scholarships, what they offer. So they they can be kind of competitive. I think there it says, yes, 100,000 scholarships are offered annually, and it's for students, researchers, and academics from Germany and abroad. They can be competitive. Of course, I mean, like this, the funding is there to kind of facilitate, more students coming to Germany, and financially supporting people. So they do have, they do kind of, thank you, Paul. So there is some kind of merit-based scholarship as well, but there's also a needs-based. So they also consider your needs as well. So this is really interesting because, of course, I mean, moving to a different country is expensive anyway, with all the application costs, even before you even get here, and then, of course, being able to fund yourself when you're here. So having that scholarship to help with your living costs is, of course, quite useful. So so just like other sites, you can also find your courses here, filter for course type, language and field, and then you can also see here if there are scholarships available. So not only does the DAAD offer scholarships, but some universities can offer them too. These are, of course, merits-based. There are also other institutions, like research organizations, think tanks, or whoever. So depending on your merit, they can also offer some different scholarships too. So yeah, so that would be interesting to look into. So yeah, we're almost coming to the end now. So yeah, so here's the application procedure. And there are two different ways to apply. So you can apply a subject that has a central numerous clausus, which is where you send your application directly to your chosen university. So the numerous clausus, this means that the number of applicants is greater than the number of available places, which means that the course is more competitive, and that there are minimum requirements that a student must fulfill to be able to study that course. So the central numerous clausus, this is particularly for subjects like medicine, law, dentistry, and this is a nationwide. So these are nationwide minimum requirements. The local numerous clausus or no numerous clausus, this is a different route. So the next step, if it isn't a central numerous clausus, you find out if the university is a member of UniAssist. And if it is, then of course, then you apply directly through UniAssist. If it's not, then you send your application directly to your chosen universities. For private universities, this is different. So you always apply directly to the university for the private institutions. Yes, there will be a recording at the end. I realize there's a lot of information also on the slides, but yes, it will be shared and put on the YouTube afterwards. So yes, so the local numerous clausus, this means that the requirements are limited to this one particular higher education institution. So specifically limited to one subject at one German university. So say you want to study, I don't know, history, global history. And there's two different universities, one in Berlin and one in Munich. And the Munich one can have their own requirements, and the Berlin one has their own requirements. So maybe the Berlin one is easier to get into than the Munich one, and vice versa. So this is why I said I had the slide with the admission requirements, but these are pretty broad ones because each university can have its own requirements too. So yes, that's I think important to know. And tuition fees. So of course, this is a pretty important topic slide. So since 2014, most German universities are now state funded, which means that they are tuition free or charge very little tuition fees. So as I mentioned before, the federal state of Baden-Württemberg still charges tuition fees. But for the rest of Germany, they often require like a semester contribution. So they're around, around 250 to 350 euros per semester. So this covers your administrative costs, your student union contribution for student dining, sports, cultural events, and a semester ticket. And the semester ticket is your public transport ticket. So this allows you to travel around your area. Yeah, the private universities, of course, are not tuition free and cost between 9,000 to 13,000 euros per year. I think a lot of international students do opt for the private universities. I think that this is because I think that the private universities are a bit easier to get into. I think the process to get into private universities is a bit easier than for the state universities. But of course, the state universities are there if it isn't feasible for you to pay these kinds of tuition fees. So just for visas, just to mention about the LLM programs. So this is covered under the regulated professions. So this is like where you would then do a state exam. So if you already have a Bachelor of Law, this is where you would then need to go to the ZAB and see if your bachelor is recognized here in Germany because it is a regulated profession. So it has to go through this particular route. And then if it is, then that's when you can then go on with the LLMs because it's regulated, so it's a bit of a different system. But yes, that's going back to this. If I find the slide before I go on to visas. So yeah, so this is covers law as well. So you have to do the state examination system. Of course, again, they're very competitive. If you want to do a Masters of Law here in Germany, you often need a C1 in German. There are some law courses that are taught in English, so these are particular, say, if you want to focus in international law, for example. But yes, I hope that was kind of answered your question. So yeah, so to go on to the visa for studying. So if you have a question, you can very happily write it in the chat and then I can try and get to it. I'm just going to finish the last couple of slides and then we can have like a question section. So yes, so the visas to study in Germany, most non-European Union international students need a study visa first, and then you acquire a study residence permit once you have arrived. So the process has two stages. So the student visa from the German embassy or the consulate in your home country, and then your study residence permit after arriving in Germany issued by the local foreigners office or the Ausländerbehörde. So the student visa allows you to enter Germany for study purposes, and to get one, students need to show a university admission letter, proof of finances. There it says via a blocked account of 11,904 euros. You need to show your health insurance, a valid passport, academic certificates, and your proof of language. Some students apply with a conditional admission or for a Studienkolleg. So a visa can still be granted for these preparatory steps. But of course, then once you complete this, then you can then convert it then to a residence permit afterwards. So yeah, the visa process can take around several weeks to even a few months, depending on the embassy. So it's really important that you apply early for these because, of course, the waiting times can be horrendous. So then after you arrive, this is when you register your address. So that's one of the most important things that you need to do. So once you land, you have to get your Anmeldung. And this is where you go to your local citizen's office and register your apartment, so like where you're living. And then this is then required to then apply for the study residence permit at the Ausländerbehörde, which is the foreigners office. So for this, you need to show your passport, your application form, your enrollment certificate, proof of finances, again, bot account, health insurance, proof of residence, registration, and rental agreement. So student applicants who have not yet been admitted to a German university or have not yet received their admission letter, they can apply for a student applicant visa. So this is valid for 3 months and then can be converted as 3 to 9 months, sorry, and then this can be converted into a residence permit for the purpose of studying once you have been admitted to a higher education institution. So I hope that was a kind of helpful. So yeah, so it's the two processes. first step, of course, getting your study visa, if you have an admission letter, student applicant visa, if you haven't been admitted yet. And then once you land, that's when you then convert to your study residence permit once you've registered your address here in Germany. Just to put it concisely. So for the cost and waiting times for the visa application fee is 100 euros. Health insurance is around 120 per month. Your rent depends on the city and the type of apartment. So if you're in a small room in like a shared apartment, it could be like 300 depending on where you are in Germany, to 700 could even be more. So for example, if you want to live somewhere in Munich or Berlin or Hamburg, Frankfurt or something, it's like one of the major cities, it could even be more than that. Average living expenses are around 934 euros per month. I think that's a bit of an outdated number. I think it's probably more than that now. But yeah, so those are kind of like expected costs. And then the processing time is about 6 to 12 weeks. I would say that that's maybe ambitious. I would probably apply a bit sooner than that and allow for more time than that. And then you can always apply 4 months before your course, at least 4 months before your course starts, just to allow for some time. But even then, I would even apply a bit sooner than that, just so you're prepared. So I'm going to invite my colleagues. There's another 5 minutes left, but I haven't actually studied here in Germany yet. I'm planning to. So I'm hoping to actually start my master's next year. So if any of you decide actually that you want to start studying next year, we're probably going to be doing this whole process at the same time. But my 2 colleagues have already done it. They've already studied here. So I'm going to ask them to basically give a quick overview of their experience and how they found it. And if you've got any questions, just write them into the chat and I can try and answer them. As typing or we can cover them. But anyway, thank you for listening. I hope that was all useful and helpful and kind of cleared things up for you a bit. But I'm going to ask Paul to go first, if that's okay.
Hi guys, my name is Paul, and thank you, Deneka, for the presentation. Yeah, that was a fantastic presentation. So I'm Paul. I'm originally from Ghana. I migrated to Germany some 5 years ago. Yep. So initially I came here to study. My colleague, Elisha, also is from Nigeria. He also came here to study as well. He studied in a public university. I studied in a private university. So I'm going to walk you through the private university process because generally is the simplest process and it's less competitive compared to public universities. Why? Because public universities are mostly free, and a simple rule you should always keep in mind is the 80-20 rule. 80% of the availability is given to the local markets and then 20% given to the entire world. What that means is if there's a course available, you are competing with everybody in the world, the Americans, the Southern Americans, the Asians as well, the Middle Eastern, and then Africa. So you're technically competing with everybody, and then it just comes down to what we call how good you are or how good your application is. But in general, there are so many universities in Germany. There are about 400 plus universities in Germany offering different courses, and German universities are all considered on the same par level. That is to say, all universities are considered good in Germany. So it doesn't matter the university you actually attend in Germany. Yeah, and then most universities have specializations. So I studied at the Berlin School of Business and Innovation in Berlin, and I've lived in Berlin my whole life. The application process was quite simple. I just signed up, sent my documents, and just applied for my course. Not long after, I got in touch with a study advisor who walked me through the process. Now, mostly all you require is your WASI, which is your proof of English certification. You need a minimum score of C6, and yeah, your transcript and then your degree as well attached and then uploaded. I studied MBA in marketing management here in Germany. Yeah. So for me, I went through the simple application process, got my admission letter, and then just applied for my visa and then came in here to study. Unfortunately for me, when I got here, it was COVID. So all my studies were online. I never had to go to class, which was quite different. But now if you come in, I think you would all be seated in a classroom. And you should you should note that when you study in an online university, your visa is never going to be granted. Even if it is granted, when you come in, your visa is not going to be extended because the German Immigration Authority specifically states that the university you study at should be an in-person study program, which means most private universities you might apply to might be offering online courses, which is not necessarily your ticket to entering into Germany. That is one. That as well. Studying in Germany is fun. I live in Berlin. It's a young population with diverse people, people of different cultures here, and then everything here is much easier, if I should say, and quite interesting as well. After studying and graduating, you are all entitled to an 18-month job seekers visa, which is a year and a half for you to find something in Germany. Within that period, you could work as well. And if you find anything, you could convert your job seekers visa into a work permit, which would allow you to stay in Germany for as long as you hold your job position or you are still employed. But in general, the rules for I think a few things changed afterwards. So after studying, normally you are allowed to study within the field of you are allowed to work within the field of your studies, but now it's changed. All you need to do is find a qualified skilled work, and then you are allowed to actually work in Germany. After 2 years of studying, you could convert your visa to a permanent residency, and from there you could also apply for your citizenship. That is, if you've been in Germany for at least 5 years and then have a minimum of German B1 and then written the living in German test and passed as well. So that being the case, that was my journey moving to Germany. I studied in a private university, which is quite easier, but expensive in German terms compared to the United States and the UK and other parts of the world. Studying in a private university in Germany is still cheap because the tuition fee ranges from about 10K to 15K per year, which is quite different, not per year, for the whole course, I'm sorry, which is quite different to the UK and then the US, where you could be paying about £20,000 per year or £16,000 per year, or to the US, where you could be paying close to $30,000 a year. That being the case, comparing these, you could just tell like just studying in Germany is much more cheaper. But then there is what we call the block account. When you're studying in Germany, everyone studying in Germany is required to at least have a block account or have a declaration from someone living and working in Germany. The block account amount, which was shared initially by Deneka, €934, which we do believe is quite outdated. I do believe it should be around €1,000 now, if I'm right. per month, because the block account for studying is now around 12,000 euros. And with this, it's technically your own money that you need for the first year of your studies in Germany, living in Germany. Whilst studying, you are also allowed to work. And on the side, most international students tend to do what we call student jobs in Germany, working in the warehouse. And also working in restaurants, and then other parts, other places as well. You could also get an internship. That is if your CV is really good and then tailored to the German labor market. You could get an internship or work in an office as a student worker or a working student in Germany as well. And this could help you with your income. For the second year. So when you are going for your extension, your visa extension, it's quite easy for you, and then quite simple as well. I also realized a lot of people were asking about the scholarship. In general, most people think the scholarship from DAAD covers your tuition fee. No, if there is tuition fee, it would cover that, but mostly public universities are free. All DAAD scholarships are mostly for public universities and not private universities. Private universities don't qualify. So a DAAD scholarship is technically they saying, okay, we are just covering your living expenses. So you coming into Germany, you wouldn't need a block account anymore, but they just saying, okay, come in, we just give you your cost of living for the whole study period. Technically, that's all they'll do, because like we said again, studying in Germany is free. In the public university is free. That makes things very, very much more easier for you. That is my experience studying here. I studied here, graduated school, and then I'm actually working here. This is my second job in Germany. Yeah, so maybe you should also try your luck. Who knows? You might also end up studying in Germany, and then after graduating, finding something suitable that fits your needs, and then staying in Germany as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, that's interesting because obviously he studied at a private university. Unfortunately, Kenny is still having connection issues and he's traveling, so he's not going to be able to talk about his experience in the state university. But I think the questions have been pretty much covered or answered. But just as one last thing before we go, we do offer our talent services. So we now have, I think, 3 different programs. So we have a particular study route as well. So if you do go to our website, there is a specific route for that support that we can provide to help you with applying for university, finding a course, that kind of stuff. There's also one for the job search, and there's one for the opportunity card too. But yeah, we're essentially just helping you to understand Germany and its job market, job search strategies, application support, customizing CV and cover letter, cultural adaptation and networking, accommodation support, visa advising on visa and legal requirements, and also master's scholarship application support, bachelor's too. So if you are interested in that, if you're interested in any of the support that we can offer further from these webinars that we do, then definitely do check out our website. Like I said, there's a specific one for studying in Germany, and it's also the time now. So if you want to study next year for the winter semester, which is when I'll hopefully be starting, the application window opens this winter, so that's month. So yes, now's the time to really be getting your applications in. Like I said, one of the questions was you have to apply for the visa 4 months before. So does that mean we have to apply for the visa before applying to the school? No, so like I said in the message, you apply for the school typically around 8 months, 9 months before the course starts. So for international students, the window is open much sooner than, say, for the German students, because of course it's a longer processing times and that kind of stuff. So yes, the window, I think even for some universities it will already be open. And I think usually for international students it closes in February or March. For some universities they keep it open a bit longer. So even some universities you can apply even up until the 15th of July, which is the same date for everyone in Germany. But yeah, so just so you're aware of that. But I hope the webinar was informative and useful. And it's been an hour and 10 minutes now, so I will probably say bye. But yeah, I'm wishing you all a nice rest of your days, a happy Thursday, and hopefully see you at some more webinars. But yeah, thank you for listening. No, you apply for the school first. So you need to have the school, the admission letter from the school before you get the visa.
Yeah. And then just applying 3 months or 4 months earlier is just best practice for visa application. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the recommended, but you can apply. Yeah, you can apply maybe 2 weeks before, but just know that you wouldn't get your visa on time.